City of stars, are you shining just for me? City of stars, there's so much that I can see. Who knows? I've had it from the first embrace I shared with you. That now my dreams, they finally come true.
Welcome to Leçon, the podcast about learning from our failures. Today I'm very happy to welcome an actress and director you might know from shows like Arrow, Gossip Girl, or Melrose Place. Cassidy grew up around Hollywood and her path hasn't always been easy. In this episode, she tells us about a time when things didn't go as planned, a moment that could have pushed her away from acting, but instead helped her grow. I'm always so happy for honest talk about finding yourself, dealing with pressure, and starting over when you need to. In this episode, she tells us about a time when things didn't go as planned, a moment when she was killed in Harrow. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, it's a bit of a spoiler.
Spoiler alert.
Whew, that was hard to...
Yeah, that was a mouthful.
Oh my God, I'm sweating right now. So you are going to do the talk and I'm going to listen to
For
you.
Sure.
You know, I'm better at that in English.
Your English is wonderful.
I don't know about that, but thank you. Americans are very polite.
Oh, well, I don't know about that. But yeah, so you were saying in terms of failures and life and, you know, as an actor, or in no matter what field, but we hear actors talk about the ups and the downs and the highs and lows in your career, and it is certainly a roller coaster, but it's given me a lot of perspective, and I've been so grateful and so lucky to have been as successful as I've been throughout my life, and it's taught me a lot of gratitude,
really?
I like to say it's eating humble pie. What happened in regards to Arrow, anyway. As I was the Black Canary, Laurel Lance, on that show, it was amazing. I mean, I loved that character so much. I worked really hard.
Can you tell me, because I think it's so interesting to understand more about the process of audition. How did you work the character to be in this show? You know?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to have a fresh take on the character.
Yeah.
I knew of the comic books because the characters did exist. So I didn't read the comic books per se when Dinah Laurel Lance turns into the Black Canary.
Okay.
Until my character actually in season 3, basically she goes through training and she ends up stepping into that role and that job. And as an actor, overall, just being on television or on the screen is certainly, there's a lot of pressure there, and overall just in general. And then just on top of it, the pressure of being a superhero and physically, transforming my body. It was really hard. It was really crazy. There was times where I was waking up at 4 a.m. so that I could go train first before I went to set. So, and when this was at least, a long time ago, hours on set were 15 to 17 hours, especially, as a woman. You're in hair and makeup a lot longer than the men are. And
the pressure is harder maybe on you, because when you see the comment about woman being in comics character, the audience isn't very tender.
Yes, no, they're not very, not very tender, but I think
not very much.
I did. I'd like to think that I did the character justice, and the fans were very happy. And sadly, yes, I did get spoiler alert. I did get killed off in season 4. Which I had no idea, because at the beginning of the season, someone was in the grave, and I remember Danielle Panabaker asking me, "Who do you think is in the grave?" And I was like, "Nobody is in the grave. It's television." And then, a couple weeks beforehand, I got a phone call, and it turned out that Laurel, it was me, my character.
And even worse, you were at comic event like 1 or 2 days after knowing that, and you had to have a poker face the entire weekend.
Yeah, it was hard. I mean, I was devastated. I was sad, but I also, was like, okay, like this happens, this is part of it. And I didn't take it personally. I knew I did the best I could do, and I knew that I did a good job. And I just kind of had this mindset of like, I'm not going to let this take me down. There's a reason, maybe something bigger, something better, something else. I don't know, but there's always a reason for everything. I truly believe that. And in this circumstance, I say I have a lot of gratitude, and I had to eat humble pie, and it was hard, but then it was so awesome and fulfilling, to get the reaction from the fans and how upset everybody was when they killed me off. And they really put up a fight, online, and made enough noise, I think, for the showrunners, and to realize they may have made a mistake.
It's a French show. It's a French show. You can say it all.
But so they obviously I was sad, but humble pie had a dose of it.
Yeah.
Then they asked me back to come back as my doppelganger on Flash, which was incredible. I had an amazing time, and I think the fans really received my take on that character.
That's so interesting. And before we talk about this huge cliffhanger, I need to understand, how did you feel when you had the news? Because you are talking about gratitude, and I think it's a very interesting point of view that actors need to have. It's like how you view things. You could have just thought about it like, oh my God, I worked so hard. Why me? Why me? Why me? Or just be grateful for your time on the show. Like, I had the best times. And like you are saying, maybe it's for greater reasons. Sometimes you need to process, like cry a bit for a week and have some hunger. That's healthy also. But
of course.
That's interesting how you view it at the time,
Yeah, it was certainly shocking and devastating. But again, it made me have so much gratitude and just for every opportunity I had and have had since. And I didn't have that perspective before.
Yeah.
Again, I'm very fortunate to have had such a great career and have portrayed such amazing characters. But, I think when they killed me off, it just made me realize that you have to sort of sit in the moment and not think about what you don't have. You really have to just appreciate where you're at each and every moment, and look back knowing, like, I look back when I shouldn't say I didn't know what I was doing. I did know what I was doing, but I didn't respect it the way that I feel or honor the work that I feel like our industry and telling stories and portraying characters is a really big responsibility. And I think,
for sure,
I think it's just not something that I had as much gratitude for.
But also it's so hard because when you're working, you as an actor, it's not like you have, in France, we say a CDI, like a contract for the long way, and you are always stressed about your next gig. And when you look at it afterward, you are like, oh my God, give you some love. You were learning, you didn't know better, and you were just trying to survive.
Yeah, exactly. And so, having said that, again, I'm grateful for for all of it. And I think, that moment when they killed me off was a moment for me in my career to look back and be like, wow, I should have had more appreciation for this, or been so grateful for having these opportunities. And especially now with our industry is changing and evolving. And for me, I'm very much a creator. I like to create. I like to collaborate. I believe my purpose on this earth is to tell story for the better of the universe and to bring people together. And I think that's part of, the actor, the director in me, the creator in me. And for when, the times when you're not working, I still live in like a creative space. I write a lot. I paint. I draw. I have really a lot of appreciation for plants. I spend time outside. But I got into like gardening and stuff during the pandemic, which was really cool. And I had a lot of time. The pandemic really also was very eye-opening because my life had not, basically I had worked nonstop from when I was 16, 17, up until about 2020. And to go from 1,000 to then 0, like I literally just never sat still or never stopped. And I really got time to nurture myself during the pandemic and when we were in lockdown and all of that. Like I got to be alone for the first time in my life, and it was eye-opening and I learned a lot about myself.
When you never experience solitude, like just being by yourself, at first it can be scary to feel the void. And then after that, you are like, oh my God, I feel at peace with myself. How did the process work for you?
Yeah, it's interesting because I say I was alone for the first time in my life, but actually that's not what I meant. I mean, yes, it is what I meant, but I guess because when you're shooting a movie, you go away, by yourself for a few weeks or months, depends on how long. And you are by yourself, but you're not. I mean, you're with the production.
Yeah. You have email.
Exactly. You're like, I was there working, but I would be alone. There were days where I was off. And so I was alone by myself in a random town in a different country. But I loved that. I love that because then you can learn about different culture and you get to explore. And so I did have some alone time, but I didn't really have alone time in my hometown in Los Angeles, where I was born and raised. And being born and raised in LA and coming from a family that's in the industry, it's way different than people who move to Los Angeles because they want to become actors and they want to be directors or they want to get into Hollywood. They don't have all the distraction of their family around 24/7. So they can focus on their career solely. Yeah. But yeah, I think what I meant is like I hadn't really been in Los Angeles and got to take care of myself when I had my family next door or in the same city. And my whole entire family lives here and I have a big family. I have 3 dads and a mom, so
lucky you.
It's a big family.
That's the greatest gift in life, honestly, to have a huge family. How did you work on yourself at the time? You talk about gardening, but that's that's actually smart because apparently neuroscientific tells us that gardening is a stuff to just be on the present and feel nature and also vibrate with the nature, What did you do at the time to take care about yourself?
Well, I think that's just it. It might have just been instinctually, but I started gardening and growing plants and vegetables and nourishing.
Taking your time
taking my time and also caring about nature and I'm nourishing the plants, but it's nourishing my soul.
Yeah, for sure.
And so it's almost like therapeutic also. It's just very soothing. I did a lot of meditating. I would listen to seminars. I would read books. I did a lot of writing. It was just a really good time for me to reflect.
I can think that, because for me it was awful. The pandemic, I tell you as it was awful, because I was back at my mom's place. I love my mom, but when you are 30 years old, you are like,
Yes.
what is my life? You know what I mean? And I felt so like the world had forget about me, But when you are working like you did, like crazy hours, you never spend time with your own mind, because your mind is for others, basically. How did you process at the time the fact that you weren't working as much anymore?
I think it was a good thing for me. Again,
you need it.
I needed to have that
maybe.
time. Yeah, but again, it's all relative, because it makes me look back on my career even further and just go back to saying the same thing. Maybe not necessarily having the perspective or the amount of gratitude that I should have had.
I get it.
Yeah. So, but you grow, you evolve, and
Yeah, and that's part of life. That's interesting that you are saying, because also, but doing, nothing, but actually a lot of things like painting, journaling, etc. You worked on your mind to be more creative, and you direct right now. Was it helping you?
Oh yeah, I went through the Warner Brothers Directors Program, and that was in 2019, and just a whole new world opened up for me, and I love it. I just feel like it's almost like when you find your niche, and I'm like, this is where it's at. It's almost like I like get into flow, and I live in this different sort of calm space when I'm directing, and it's an interesting. It's almost like a high. I know that sounds weird, but
no, that's not. That's your passion.
I feel like I'm in flow, like I'm in where I'm like aligned with the world, with the universe when I'm directing, and it's hard to explain. But as an actor, I love acting, of course, forever. I love creating character, but it lends to directing, that lends to producing, that lends to writing. I think it's important to sit in all of these different seats at the table, because you then understand what that person, like, I didn't know, probably if you would have asked me 15, 20 years ago what the director was doing, I didn't know.
Me either.
I didn't know. And then it gave me such a different perspective when going through the program and actually directing. I wrote and directed a short, as well as I directed Arrow.
Wow.
But it's just like, I have so much respect and appreciation for directors that I didn't have before.
How was it to direct Arrow? Like, to work with your coworkers, but you know what I mean?
Fulfilling. It was really incredible. And my co-stars were so supportive, and they were so wonderful. It was great. It was amazing.
So tell me, you were killed. The grave was yours.
The grave was mine.
Shit.
But they brought me back.
But
yes,
the great cliffhanger of it all, because at the time when you are like, okay, I'm killed, I need to find my next gig, it like never happened to have this kind of cliffhanger that you had. But the fans were so strongly with you, like, oh no, we want her back, etc., that they did ultimately. With a spin-off can you
my doppelganger, they
brought
back
your doppelganger,
Black Siren. So on Flash, and then I went back as a regular on Arrow.
And when they called you and told you the news, how did you feel it?
Oh my gosh, I was so excited. It was like I'd never left, and everybody was happy to have me there, and it was just good. It was nice to be back, and yeah, it was great. I was very excited. I was thankful, and I felt like I was back home.
That's always so great.
Yeah.
How do you deal with having so much people on a set? and just finding your peace, inner peace to do the right thing, you know?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because any director who watches this, they're probably going to think I'm nuts, because they're like, calm?
Yeah.
How are you calm? It's
Wow.
well, because there's so much. But if you're prepared, you know, you've got a plan, but you also have a backup plan and a backup plan and a backup plan and a backup plan, and then another backup plan, because all those plans might fall apart, and you better have an extra 1,200 plans. But basically, that was one of the more challenging things. But luckily, because I'm an actor, I've been on a set, you know, almost my whole life. I know being around, it is I'm also claustrophobic. So being around on a set, I know. So being on a set around people, it is hard for me. I always take lunches by myself to just
clean your energy.
Yeah, exactly. I always see people who, I don't know how they do it, because when I say that, I mean, they're performers, they're actors, and then they're going and having lunch and spending, like, talking all day long, and I'm so exhausted. I just don't know how. I mean, admire them for it. I just have to take time for me to, like, recenter. And sometimes, you know, I love playing video games.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just that. Like, I just need to, I call it like a brain break.
Yeah.
I just need a brain break. So
Mine is a Real Housewife of Beverly Hills.
Oh my gosh, hilarious. Yeah.
We all need our rotten stuff.
Yeah, it's like some people watch reality TV. I play first-person shooter games, either on the computer or on my PlayStation.
We need to have a psychiatrist told more about it.
I know, right? Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I have a few more questions for you. Looking back, do you think that failure was actually a turning point, like in your career, in your life, to learn more about yourself?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think all of these are lessons. You can't win if you haven't failed several times, because then you don't know what it's like. So yeah, I definitely think, you know, failures, it's all about lessons and teaching you something, and you know, I'm sure there'll be plenty more. I'm sure I have more lessons to learn looking ahead. But again, as long as I just try to stay in the moment and keep myself grounded.
How do you deal with fear also, especially the fear of maybe falling again? It's human.
It's just more about, like, not being afraid of it. You have to sort of embrace it and know that it's
part of the journey.
Yeah, it's a roller coaster, and hang on.
If someone listening is going through something similar, what would you want them to know?
This too shall pass. And like I said, it's a roller coaster, but hang on, because, you know, when you go down, you're going to come back up at some point. It's just going to continue to try to live in the moment as much as you can.
Also, maybe give you some love, because when I think about time when I was not feeling good with myself, and then after, when I was on the top of my game, you see yourself like, my God, I'm proud of myself for stay here, work on myself, and just be like, okay, like you said, this should pass also, you know? So maybe give you love.
Yeah. Yep.
Would you change anything about that difficult time if you could go back?
I wouldn't. I also try not to. I like to reflect, but I don't feel like there's regrets. I think there's I don't know. I try to do everything honestly and with integrity and have intention with everything I do. And again, lessons that I've learned. So I'm grateful for all of it.
Did your life gave you more meaningful of spirituality, maybe? No, it's not a sentence. It doesn't mean really anything.
Are you saying, did it make me more spiritual?
Yeah, I feel
definitely. Like when failure or, they say like, if you fall down, pick yourself back up.
Yeah.
But yeah, you go through hard times, and I think that it does open up your third eye in a way. I can't really explain it to this like space. Well, it is just like The Power of Now, I guess. Eckhart Tolle, which I love that book. But
yeah.
It is like a being enlightened, I guess. If that makes sense.
I read that book also, and I understood, I'm never in the moment.
Yeah.
At the time when I read it, I was like, my God, this needs to change, because when you are always in the future, or when you go back and you are being harsh on yourself, your present being is just not there, and you cannot function well also, and it's so sad for yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's what they say, the past causes depression and the future causes anxiety.
Yeah.
And the present, living in the present, is a gift. That's why it's called the present. And I think that the more I remind myself, because it's way easier to say than actually do, but that book, I remember reading the moment when he has you look at yourself, your thinking self, like a separate identity.
Yeah.
Of like, picture your thinking brain, like you're the thinking man, like you're not your thoughts, you're not your feelings, he goes into it, and it really was it's an incredible book, and I think that really helped me in a lot of ways. And even now I'll listen to it, like it's almost like a meditation, listening to him read it on like, whether it's, I think there's an app actually, Power of Now.
Oh, really?
And it's just soothing, and it just reminds me to try to stay in this very moment.
Yeah.
Like right here, right now, nothing exists until this moment, this moment, this moment. So just be.
Be, for sure. And as a woman, it's even harder, because at time in the month, you are starting to think, and you are like, am I really thinking that, or is that my hormones who does the work for me? But that is an interesting exercise, to think about yourself like you are your higher version of yourself, and you are just looking at your own through, like, okay, this does not belong to me. I'm not my thoughts. That's a great exercise to do. Do you have maybe other books to recommend?
The Power of Now is wonderful. I also really love The Artist's Way. It's an incredible book. It's actually almost like a project book. It gives you tasks that you do.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, it's really, really special.
What do you want to say to someone who is a bit in a bad place in their mind right now, and you want to just listen to you and have some positive thoughts?
Go buy The Power of Now, or download the app and start listening.
Download the app.
Yeah. Meditate. Go internal. Meditate.
Only 5 minutes. It's already a win for you in your day.
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine who owns a company about meditating, and she always told me, like what you did with gardening, she's like, every person needs to find their own way of meditating. And if you can sit down, it's all right. Walk through nature, cook. It's also a form of meditation. So you need to find your own way to doing it, but you need your time alone in a day. Bisous Eugénie, she's my friend. Thank you so much, Katie, for your very powerful thoughts about failure and what you learned from it. A word to end this episode, maybe?
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming, and I hope you spend a little bit more time out here, because this place is really special. Talk about spiritual. And if anybody out there is having a hard time, again, go inward and love yourself first. And meditate. Yeah.
Meditate. So that's the word.
And start planting some vegetables. It's actually really food for the soul.
I love that. I can wait for you to have a DM on Instagram like, here are my potatoes on my tomato. Maybe a cook.
Yeah, you never know. Very domesticated these days.
Love that. Thank you.
Thank you.